Hey guys, Dan here. Today's daily quarantine video is going to be reviewing the 4 big box office movies that got the short shrift at the theaters because all the theaters are closed. So there's maybe like 200 that are still open. They're like little independent ones, but so these movies are still getting, pennies, but for the most part their theatrical runs are over. So 2 studios, specifically Universal and Disney, have leapt to the challenge, and Disney moved up the release of Frozen 2 on Disney Plus like 2 to 3 months early. They've moved up the purchase price on Star Wars. If you want to stream it for purchase, you can do that. The new Rise of Skywalker movie, that will be on Disney Plus, I think in June still, or maybe in May. But anyway, right now you can stream it. But Universal has put up 3 of their big box office movies that they were hoping to make a lot of money on. One of them they were able to because it came out in February, and that's The Invisible Man. But 2 others, The Hunt and Emma, were just going wide theatrically about a week before all the shutdowns happened. Actually, not even a full week. Like that Friday, The Hunt came out, so it had a pretty dismal box office. And then a few days later, all the theaters closed. So they have not done so yet with the Dr. Dolittle movie with Robert Downey Jr., but that pretty much finished at theaters anyway, so I think that's going to be on track to release when it was supposed to. But Sony is following suit, and Paramount is following suit, and so within the next 2 weeks or so, we're going to also be getting the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, Bad Boys for Life. I think there was one other major one. Oh, Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn movie. I think that's it. Everything else has been sort of shelved for the time being, except for Universal has said that they're going to release the Trolls movie, Trolls 2 World Tour, on April. It's either April 3rd or April 10th. But whatever day it was supposed to come out in theaters, they're releasing it in whatever theaters are still open, but also putting it for the rental. So you can watch all of these movies right now at home. Now, they do cost a pretty penny. It's $20 to rent these movies for 48 hours, at least the Universal titles. The Disney title we're going to cover is Onward, which only had about 2 weeks in theaters before everything got shut down. That is available for purchase at $20, and then will be on Disney Plus months in advance on April 3rd, I believe. So the 4 movies we're going to talk about here are Onward, and then the 3 Universal movies, which is The Invisible Man, The Hunt, and Emma. I'm not going to really delve into some of the other ones that were moved up, like Frozen 2 or Rise of Skywalker, because Justin and I are going to cover those when we hit the top 100 of 2019, because they were movies that came out late last year and just sort of were still big at the box office at the beginning of this year. So here we go with these 4 releases. Now, first of all, before I get to them, if you think $20 is a high price, I agree that for a single person like myself to watch these movies at home, $20 is a bit steep. But if you have even 2 people watching, it's still less than going to your high-priced theater, paying $11, $15 a ticket, whatever it is, and then plus you got to buy the snacks and the sodas and everything. So honestly, I don't think $20 is a crazy price point for to rent it for 2 nights. I think maybe $15 would have been smarter, but whatever. I'm sure they're trying to recoup anything that they can out of these movies. Onward, we're going to start with first. It probably will go down in history as the worst grossing Pixar movie ever, but look, it's not its fault. It had an okay opening weekend, but then its second week was in the face of all the coronavirus stuff. So here we go with this movie. We have these 2 like elves. The whole world is like this magical world with all these different creatures. You've got some with one eye, and some are minotaurs and whatnot. But basically, these elf brothers, one is still in high school and the other one is sort of into adulthood, but doesn't really know which way to go with his life, basically. He's voiced by Chris Pratt, that is Barley, and Ian Lightfoot is the younger of the two. He's still in high school. That is voiced by Tom Holland. Their mom, voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfuss in her second Pixar movie. Of course, you remember her fondly, hopefully, from A Bug's Life way, way back in the Seinfeld days, actually. And then their dad has passed away, and unfortunately, the older brother doesn't have a lot of memories with him, and the younger brother, didn't know him that well either. So on Ian's 16th birthday, the mom gives him both the boys really, a gift, which is like this magical staff thing, and basically it allows them to figure out magic, and Ian is okay at it, but needs a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help, and he's able to conjure the bottom half of his father. So they go on a quest to get this rare gem that will give them the rest of their father. Excuse me, my allergies have been kicking my butt, by the way, so please forgive me. But anyway, so they go on a quest, and that's that. It's like a road trip movie, basically, with the two boys and the lower half of the father. Octavia Spencer co-stars as well. She runs this local restaurant, and she's trying to basically, she wants to lead them in the direction of the gem. However, there's a curse attached to it that she forgot to tell them about, of course. So her and their mother are out off, looking for the boys on their quest in this old beat-up van. So this movie is definitely not one of Pixar's best. It will not go down with, your Nemos and your Incredibles and your Toy Stories. It's a serviceable film. It's okay. To me, it is more like a Ratatouille. I mean, my problem with this movie is it sort of takes from a lot of different movies. Now, visually, it's fine. I wouldn't say there's anything remarkably amazing about it when you compare it to some of the other recent offerings, not even from Pixar, but from some of the other animation studios as well. But it's good, it's fine. But when you think about How to Train Your Dragon from DreamWorks, not even Pixar, was 10 years ago at this point, and how visually just remarkable and stunning that is. And the reason I use that as an example is because it is a similarly themed movie, because it's about, not magic necessarily, but just sort of beyond our world, flying dragons and stuff. It's mythical. And that is very much at the core of Onward. You have this movie borrowing from a lot of other movies that have a very wide range. I mean, just take the lower half of the dad part, where they're, obviously he doesn't have eyes or ears, so the kids have to, guide him because he can't see or hear anything because he's just a, torso and lower. But they, dress him up so he's got the look of a real person, from the waist up. But it was very Weekend at Bernie's-ish. There were some comedy elements to it. And I definitely got a few laughs from it, but it's the same thing as Weekend at Bernie's, literally. So, that was weird that they borrowed from that. And then also just some of the themes borrow from things like How to Train Your Dragon, Big Hero 6, even Harry Potter, with, the kid learning how to use his magic and stuff. And even to a little bit, Tom Holland is the voice of Ian, even a little bit to the Spider-Man movies. Because, he gets bitten by the spider and he has to learn how to use his webs and stuff. It's, it's a lot of the same thing that we've seen time and time again. Now, Pixar does put their kind of emotional touch on it. It is a touching story. There just isn't really anything new about it. It also made me realize yet again that Chris Pratt does not have a lot of range. His character was basically just Chris Pratt as an elf, whereas, Ian Tom Holland was a fully realized character from the voice work, and he was just in an animated feature, Spies in Disguise, and he was quite different in that than he is here. I mean, he still has the kind of like nerdy vibe, you know. In Spies in Disguise, he's an adult because he's, you know, a programmer at the CIA or whatever it is. I kind of forget, but you know, here he's still in high school, like in Spider-Man, so it's a little bit Spider-Man-y, but honestly, more in the themes of the movie than his voice performance. I actually thought he did a really good job. Julie Louis-Dreyfuss, good as well. In fact, at first I didn't quite recognize her, and then I looked up the cast and I was like, oh yeah, I did hear that she was in this movie. And then Octavia Spencer does a good job. You know, everybody, you know, does fine, and there's some laughs. But I feel like this will go down with more of the middle grade type Pixar movies. You know, I mentioned Ratatouille earlier. I think Bug's Life probably falls in that category as well. Probably Finding Dory falls in that category. So, you know, grading this is hard because I always kind of, I don't know, I've got a huge soft spot for Pixar because they have many of my favorite animated movies of all time. And I think they rarely whiff. And I wouldn't say this is a complete whiff, but in all honesty, like if this were a movie made by DreamWorks or Sony, I would probably grade it less than I want to grade this because I have so much love for Pixar. So with that, I'm going to grade it as if it were a DreamWorks movie with all of the exact same structure and voice acting and everything else and storyline, and leave Onward with a B. It's fine for what it is, but I think in 10 years when we talk about, you know, the great Pixar movies, this ain't even going to be in the top, you know, 10 or 12, I don't think. It's serviceable, but it's nothing that we have not seen before. So up next, we're going to talk about The Invisible Man. This one luckily got a few full weeks at the box office and did very well for Universal before the coronavirus shut down all the theaters. Universal has really been trying for years to reinvigorate their old classic monster movies from the 30s. You know, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy. You know, they just redid The Mummy, 2 years ago with Tom Cruise, which got slaughtered by the critics. I thought it was okay. I made a video, in fact, called In Defense of The Mummy. I gave it a B-. I thought it was fine. You know, it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't good enough to reinvigorate this entire franchise of the Universal Monsters. The Invisible Man, however, is. It is just that good. In fact, you know, last year we had, I don't know, like literally 18 or 20 horror movies. I mean, it was almost every other week in the calendar had a horror movie on it. Justin and I were talking about it when we did the top 100 of 2019, the top 100 grossing. It was like, we did the bottom 25, and I would say at least 6 or 7 of them were horror movies. You know, you had The Child's Play in there, and Curse of La Llorona, and 47 Meters Down, and Doctor Sleep, and, you know, and that was just in the bottom 25. So here, you know, I think this is probably the best horror movie that we've seen since Get Out. Us was good, but not quite this good. Maybe Quiet Place. Quiet Place was also very, very good. That was after Get Out, I suppose. But easily better than any horror movie released last year. I can confidently say that. What makes it so good? Well, first of all, the technology now is really great for this type of a movie. You know, The Mummy was sort of all about, you know, there was a good visual aspect of it, but that's kind of all it was. The story was sort of only so-so. And, you know, I mean, Tom Cruise was in it. I love him, you know, so the acting was fine. But, you know, it has to be more than just, oh, okay, well, the technology's improved since the 30s, so cool. It looks good, but what else have you got? Here you've got 2 other things going for it. One is a great plot, and the other is terrific acting from Elizabeth Moss. Now, she is in that show I don't watch. What's it called? In oh my gosh, the Handmaid's Tale, right? It's not even on her stupid thing. Yeah, she is in Handmaid's Tale, which I don't watch. So I have seen her pop up in things, but I've certainly never like seen her lead anything, and she is outstanding here. The plot of the movie revolves around basically this very abusive, both verbally and I guess physically, she alludes to. Well, and we see physically, throughout the movie, but this very, very powerful, technology whiz. But he basically has her under his thumb. He has his brother under his thumb. He got everybody in his life, basically hating him because he's so abusive and monstrous. So he dies, but is he really dead? She would say absolutely not, because here is the Invisible Man. So he's making these things look like she's doing it. He's sending an email to her sister saying, "Oh, I want you out of my life. You're horrible." He's in the room when she's having a deep moment with a young girl that she's friends with the father, and the Invisible Man hits the girl. So it looks like Elizabeth Moss hit the girl. So you've got this very it's a mixture of the classic Invisible Man story meets something like Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts, or Enough with Jennifer Lopez. It's one of those, and I think the mix is wonderful. I would certainly consider this a horror movie, but like most of the great recent horror movies, it's not full of jump scares. It's not scream of the week kind of thing. It is a stalker movie, sure, but not in the same way as like a serial killer movie like Halloween or Friday the 13th or something. This is certainly more cerebral because nobody believes her, so that classic trope. And it's got some great twists and turns in it. Visually, it's a bit dark, which I understand because some scenes, like she's sleeping and wakes up from something, so the house is dark, and all right. But still, I think there could have been maybe a little more lighting cues in the film. But she's absolutely fantastic in the role. And her supporting cast is good too. Whoever plays the sister is good. Whoever plays the African American gentleman that she's friends with, that's a cop, like he's good too. And the twists and turns this movie takes are really well done, and it's so, other than the lighting, it's so well shot because she'll leave a room and will just linger on the scene, and you as the audience are like, okay, my heart's beating. What's the Invisible Man gonna do? While she's not in the room. It's shot very well. It's not corny or cheesy. They really took this premise and brought it into a real world situation. So I loved it. I think it's a great movie. Definitely recommended, and I think this could very well jumpstart the entire Universal, monster horror thing back up again, like they were known for in the beginning. I know they've been trying to do that for years. I think this was the movie to do it with. Invisible Man gets an A from me. Up next, we're going to talk about The Hunt. Now, this is described as like the most controversial movie of the year that nobody's seen, because it was supposed to come out in, I think, September of last year, sometime last year, like in the fall. But they postponed it due to some school shootings, and so they set this new release date, which happened to be the date that the coronavirus really started hitting the U.S. So, this movie was kind of cursed from the beginning, unfortunately. Or if you've seen it, maybe it is fortunate. I don't know. This is definitely one of the most polarizing movies of the year. I would say that. I never look specifically at like what critics are saying before I review a movie, because I want to form my own opinion about it. But I do look at the Rotten Tomatoes score just to kind of see like, okay, am I a crazy person, or is this a good movie, or is this a crap movie, whatever. But this one, I think right now is at 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, which tells me it is divisive. And I can see why, because it is very political. But what's interesting about it is it's not necessarily geared towards any faction. So the basic premise is there's a group of very rich liberals who have a hunt for people, and the people are all, they never specifically say it in the movie, but they're all, Trump people. They're all hardcore conservatives. Some of them have blogs. Some of them, have podcasts or whatever. Some of them just tweet all these things about, love Trump and build the wall and all that kind of stuff. That is never said like specifically in the movie, and I guess that's more to make it time sensitive probably than anything, or not time sensitive, I should say. So, but it's all sort of, that's, to somebody in 2019 or 2020, it's obvious what they're going for here, the specific targets. But because of that, because it's not just, like in The Purge, I think it was more the rich Republicans shooting, like homeless people and stuff. It's like really, really villainizing them. Here, it's not quite as clear cut who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. It sort of is, but like as a liberal myself, it was intriguing. I did not, like, one of my friends went to see this and he was like, oh my god, I hated it so much, it was so anti-liberal and da-da-da-da-da, this and that. But is it? Like, I think it's kind of anti just politics. I think it's anti the system. I think I don't think it's necessarily attacking either side, and I think it's got this dark sense of humor to it that even drives the point home more, because everybody's kind of a caricature. I don't think there's anybody in this movie who's really okay, like this person's 100% good or 100% bad. I think they've just amped it up so much. Betty Gilpin is the star of it, and I know her from Glow. I've seen her in like other things, but her most, I would say, recognizable thing is the TV show Glow. And much like Elizabeth Moss, I've only ever seen her like as a side character. Like she was in Stuber, and she's done a lot of movies where she is the wife or the friend or whatever. But here, she's front and center, and she, much like Elizabeth Moss in Invisible Man, she really, this movie just rides on her back the whole time. She shoulders the burden for every scene just about, and she's amazing in it. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a great like final battle scene with her and a famous actress who plays one of the people who organized the hunt. I don't even want to give it away, but there's a lot of famous people in this movie as well. Emma Roberts, Ike Barinholtz, the dude from This Is Us, the the dude that plays the actor. I forget his real name, and I can't remember his name in the show either. I don't know, but anyway, he plays the actor on This Is Us. And what's interesting is within about, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe, not even, I would say within about 5 minutes, a major actor just gets murdered, and you're like, oh my god, okay, so all bets are off then. Oh, all right, So I like that from the beginning. There's even more people than that in the movie. Ethan Suplee is in it from My Name Is Earl. Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This movie has a nice cast of some pretty famous people, and some of them do not make it past the first few minutes, and it's crazy. Yeah, so I think this movie takes a lot of chances. I don't think the commentary on society is nearly as biting as it thinks it is. Like, to me, it's not as biting as Get Out at all. Probably not even as much as Us. The two popular Jordan Peele movies of the last few years. But it is there, and I think this movie has, again, like a lot of like real deal scares. Like, I definitely jumped a few times. At one point, somebody was about to step on a landmine before they saw it, and I was just like, oh god, like I was bracing myself. And look, I'm not watching this movie in a big theater with a lot of people. I'm watching it by myself with the lights on, but I was still like, oh god, like, look out, kind of thing. So this movie definitely got that response from me. However, It's definitely not as clever as it thinks it is. It's not as well made as it thinks it is. Without Betty Gilpin, this movie is nothing. You know, she's so great in this movie. But to be honest, I think it's worth seeing, as long as you're not too squeamish. I mean, I kind of am, and so I found this movie a little bit on the intense side, but I think it did a lot of things right, and I think it's clever in certain ways. It fails at that in other ways, but I like the twists and turns of it, and I think for a sort of, you know, popcorn movie, as long as you don't take it too heavy with the social commentary, because it's there, but it's not. It's, you know, to me, it's real obvious. Like, it's not subtle at all. But, you know, the over-the-top nature of it, to me, makes it like, okay, you're going at both sides pretty equally here. So I enjoyed The Hunt. I gave it a B. It's certainly better than I thought it was going to be. And that is from both of these. Invisible Man and The Hunt are from the Blumhouse production studio. He does all the horror movies pretty much through Universal and through his own company, Blumhouse Tilt. And, you know, I would say they probably put out at least 7-8 horror movies a year. And so this year already they've put out both of those. But both, you know, recommended. Not as much as Invisible Man. I loved that movie. But The Hunt, I think is worth seeing, if nothing else, for a conversation piece. You know, because it will be very divisive for people. All right, so finally we have Emma. This is also from Universal Pictures, not, of course, from the Blumhouse company. This is not a horror movie. This is Emma, the classic Jane Austen Emma. Gwyneth Paltrow did a version about 25 years ago that I did not see. And in fact, this may be the first Emma I have ever seen. I know the story, so maybe I read the book in high school. I don't know. I've seen several of the Pride and Prejudices, but I believe this is the first Emma I've ever seen. And it stars Anna, is it Anya, right? Anya Taylor-Joy, who is the doe-eyed gal from Glass and Split. She was also in Morgan, that like weirdo sci-fi movie that was terrible. And she was also in the Playmobil movie, that stupid kids movie that was terrible, from a few months ago. But here she stars as Emma, and this is, to me, like, kind of in her wheelhouse, because much like Haley Steinfeld in The Dickinson Show on Apple TV Plus about Emily Dickinson, she, you know, Anya Taylor-Joy sort of has this, like, classical British look about her, where she just would fit right in because she looks so natural in these, like, big dresses, and she's also great at accents. I forget what country she's from. She's not British, right? She's a little British, but she was born in Argentina. Okay, but she grew up in England. But she, you know, so she fits right in her wheelhouse here with that, although she's great at accents. She did a great American accent, Philly accent for Glass. Or, well, I guess Glass too, but Split was the main thing. Bill Nighy is the other, you know, person you might recognize from this movie. He does all of these types of period pieces, and he was in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, and he does all that kind of stuff. And he's always great, and great here as well. He gets a lot of laughs as her father, Mr. Woodhouse. And he, you know, him and Emma are pretty much the only, I'd say, like, well-rounded characters. Everybody else sort of, you know, flits in and out of things, and they're a little bit one note, and that's sort of how the book was always designed, I guess. Emma, you know, shines here. She's the star, and you need a strong person to be able to carry that. This, you know, it's funny, like, other than Onward, all the three Universal movies revolve around these very strong women and great actresses that they've got to play the roles. Anya Taylor-Joy has so much fun in this movie that it's great. You know, she's going in and out of her friends' lives trying to, you know, be matchmaker, sort of, you know, causing fights, you know, here, and mending fences here, and you know, it's a tale all about her and her matchmaking sensibilities, because early on in the show, I keep wanting to say play, because it looks like, you know, a piece of PBS Masterpiece Theater, you know, but she gets her governess a husband, and so she's like, oh my god, I'm a great matchmaker, here we go. You know, if you've seen any of the Emma productions, if you saw the Gwyneth Paltrow version, if you read the book, this does not add anything new to that realm. And it's rated PG because all the language is basically the same. You know, it's taken directly. So it's not, you know, it is your mom's Emma, it is your grandmom's Emma, it is your great 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 grandmom's Emma. But they've really, I mean, looks wise, this thing pops. The costumes are gorgeous. The set pieces are beautiful. I would not be shocked if this, you know, is not up for an Oscar for best costume design. You know, which a lot of these period pieces, okay, you know, like Love and Friendship, and a lot of these period pieces, you sort of expect that. But I mean, this, I feel like, even took it a step beyond, just because it's so colorful too. So the colors of the outfits and stuff really pop. And you know, maybe compare even a little bit, or contrast, I should say, to the drabness of some of the rooms. But the set design is still great, even if it's like a drab room. And the acting is great here. It's a lot of fun. You know, I can't give it the highest grade because obviously it adds nothing new really to the mix. But never having seen the Gwyneth Paltrow version, you know, it definitely worked for me. I think even if I had seen it, I don't know. I mean, the costumes are so great in this. It was just beautiful to look at for 2 hours. And Anya Taylor-Joy is just having a blast with this character. So I liked this movie a lot as well. It's an A-. So really, I mean, none of these movies, in my opinion, are stinkers. Are they worth $20 to rent for 2 days? Probably not. I would say, unless you're stuck inside with your whole family and there's going to be like 4 of you watching it, I probably would advise against the $20 purchase and wait till it's available for I mean, I could see buying it for $20. I mean, I buy DVDs all the time, as you can see. I actually have to update this. I was just thinking the other day, I got to update this with I have boxes of like my last 4 years worth of DVDs that I need to put in here and make room for. So so you give you guys other titles to look at. I'm sure you're sick of seeing, you know, Click. Click just sticks out because of that blue. Anyway. All that aside, but yeah, none of these are stinkers. I was very happy that of all 4 of these movies, the lowest grades were B's, and that was for Onward and The Hunt. And neither of those even were bad movies. They just, you know, just the worst from these 4. They both had enough going for them to recommend, but just sort of failed in other aspects. But to my surprise, Invisible Man was my favorite of all of these. I really thought it was going to be Onward just because it's Pixar, even though Onward didn't look like it would be that good. Like, I don't watch trailers a lot, but I saw the Onward trailer during a couple movies I took my nephews to. I think Spies in Disguise and maybe the Sonic movie. But it didn't look like it would be all that good. But it's Pixar. I'm like, well, Up didn't look like it would be that good either. WALL-E didn't look like it would be that good either. You know, and those are 2 of my favorite Pixar movies. So you can never really tell with a Pixar until you see the whole movie. So I don't know. It's worth $20 to buy Onward, I suppose, but it will be on Disney Plus in about a week and a half, so you could also just wait for that. But that's going to do it. This is my quarantine video for the day. Tomorrow, there should be a new Connors episode on. I always am hesitant to say yes, there'll definitely be something on, because you never know when there's going to be a presidential press conference or something about the virus. But God willing, we'll have the Connors tomorrow, Masked Singer on Wednesday. Thursday will be my TV news and reviews for the week. Friday is Frasier Friday. I already had a video filmed with Joe that I'm going to post. So that's the next 4 days worth of quarantine videos for you. But I'm always looking for things that I can review for you, so we don't get stale here. But as promised, unless I am, gravely ill here with the coronavirus myself, I'm going to keep bringing you a video every single day reviewing something or other, or at least talking about something or other on the channel. So thank you so much for watching. Comment below, please. Hopefully you've seen some of these movies, and I can get your thoughts on them. And that'll do it for now. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.